The 4.381-kilometer Hungaroring circuit in Budapest hosts the penultimate event on the 2024 Formula One calendar before the summer break, during the most challenging phase of this season so far for Scuderia Ferrari. Significant changes are currently taking place in Maranello, with Italian aerodynamicist and former technical director Enrico Cardile officially leaving the Ferrari Racing Department after working for Ferrari for almost 2 decades, and the technical office now officially in the hands of Frédéric Vasseur, but with the most important figures of each macro department tasked with directing the development of corrections for the SF-24 single-seater and making crucial decisions for the 2025 Formula One project in the upcoming weeks. Scuderia Ferrari will arrive in Hungary facing an important crossroads to decide whether the new aerodynamic update package introduced at the Circuit de Catalunya in Spain still has room for use, or if it will also need to be shelved on the Hungarian circuit. As the team principal himself said, there are several solutions for bouncing. Some make you lose performance, others don't, and the Italian side wants to steer itself onto the second path. But as the French manager pointed out, this takes time. Until then, Ferrari will have to use the current aerodynamic package with the clear goal of getting the most out of it. The 1-week break before heading to the Hungaroring circuit for the next round of the 2024 Formula One Championship has been very important from a technical point of view. The Maranello team's technicians needed time after the comparison work carried out between the two SF-24 configurations, namely the Imola package versus the Spain package, which saw the latest specifications definitively rejected in the British Grand Prix at the Silverstone circuit. In Hungary, a high downforce track, the goal of the Maranello technicians working around the SF-24 is to try to use the new floor again, paired with the more streamlined side pods. In the last few races, the two Ferrari drivers have been troubled by a car that has lost the excellent balance it had at the start of the 2024 Formula One season. Before the Silverstone Grand Prix weekend, it was Carlos Sainz who pushed hard to reuse the components introduced at the Imola circuit, taking a step back and opening up the opportunity for an important comparison. And now even Charles Leclerc doesn't seem so convinced anymore about receiving the car in the Spain configuration. However, in Maranello, they must optimize what they have available. Except for the sections where the bouncing is present, which cost about 20 points of downforce at high speed, the engineers have seen on track how the Ferrari SF-24 has more downforce with the new aerodynamic package in the slower sections. Adding to this is the fact that at the Hungaroring, they shouldn't reach the critical threshold for triggering porpoising as happened in both Austria and Silverstone, so it would seem smart to push the new specifications again. This is why, for the Hungarian Grand Prix, the Maranello team will prioritize using the Spain version with some confidence. But the Plan B is always present since the Imola package will also be brought to the Hungaroring, ready to be used in case the new aerodynamic package shows issues even in Budapest. In Hungary, a reaction is expected from Ferrari with a layout that, according to certain technical aspects, could suit the SF-24. Prioritizing the more updated aerodynamic package has technical reasons that align well with the characteristics of the Hungaroring circuit, since it potentially only has 2 corners to be taken over 250 km per hour, one of which, turn 4, is very short and therefore not problematic for possible bouncing. Additionally, the Spain package shifts the balance slightly in favor of the slow sections, which should help, at least partially, manage the problem the Ferrari SF-24 has in long corners, especially in low and medium speed ones, which are present on the Budapest circuit. An important confirmation that the Ferrari technicians had in the back-to-back tests carried out between the two specifications at Silverstone is that Charles Leclerc, with the latest specification, was much faster for 3/4 of the track, except for Copse and the Maggots-Beckett's Chapel section, where the losses compared to Carlos Sainz's old version SF-24 were even more than 3/10. The Monegasque driver was instead dominant in the slow sections, slightly more competitive in the medium ones, and indeed much slower in the fast sections. That's why, if there is bouncing even in Hungary, enough to discard the newer floor, it would be a sort of technical drama. The Hungaroring circuit is not Monaco, but it is still a track where Ferrari expects to improve the trend of the last 4 races. Having to revert to their Imola spec SF-24, Carlos Sainz admitted that Ferrari lost 2 or 3 months of development as they rolled back on updates. The second fastest team in the early rounds of the 2024 Formula One campaign, Ferrari were Red Bull's main rivals as Carlos Sainz won the Australian Grand Prix before Charles Leclerc stood on the top step of the podium in front of his home fans on the streets of Monaco in Monte Carlo. The latter victory came on the back of Ferrari's first big upgrade of the season as the team put a heavily revised SF-24 on the grid. The car was a step forward, but with McLaren and Mercedes also putting noteworthy upgrades on the track. Ferrari accelerated their development program with another round of big changes introduced at the Circuit de Catalunya in Spain. That did not produce the lap time they had hoped for, but even more worryingly, it also brought porpoising back to the Ferrari Formula One car. Bouncing around the tracks, especially in the high-speed corners, Carlos Sainz admitted prior to the British Grand Prix that it was probably costing them even more time than they thought. It had Ferrari running comparisons tests on the Friday at Silverstone before the team made the call to roll back on the upgrades to basically put the same car they had at Imola on the track for qualifying and the Grand Prix. The Spaniard finished a distant 5th place in the race, while strategy calls cost Charles Leclerc, who was pointless, in 14th place. After his P5 result at Silverstone, Carlos Sainz told the media that their performance was clearly not good enough. He noted that they had essentially the same car as in Imola, while other teams had upgraded and probably added 2/10 to their cars, forcing Ferrari to revert. The Spaniard pointed out that they had lost 2 or 3 months of potential performance gains in the wind tunnel, or performance that could have been added in those 3 months, indicating that recent decisions had not been the right ones. He felt that the current situation was a return to basics with the car from the Imola weekend, and at the same time emphasized the need to upgrade it from that point, acknowledging that their rivals were a good step ahead. On the other hand, Charles Leclerc felt it was indeed the right choice for Ferrari to revert to their Imola specification for the race weekend in the British Grand Prix in order to benefit from greater consistency, with the added performance from the new package bringing the troublesome side effect of more bouncing. But for the Maranello team to be out-qualified by their customer team Haas in the hands of Nico Hülkenberg at the Silverstone circuit was especially painful for them. Ferrari are likely to once again run several comparison tests during the first 2 free practice sessions for the Hungarian Grand Prix on Friday and again at the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium before deciding on which aerodynamic package to progress with each specific weekend. Ferrari have scored just 50 points in the 4 races since Charles Leclerc's Monaco Grand Prix victory, putting the Scuderia's 2nd place in the Constructors' Championship under threat as they sit just 7 points ahead of a charging McLaren team, with Mercedes also looking strong in the last races, even able to secure 2 consecutive race victories, which have allowed the team led by Toto Wolff to also significantly reduce the gap to the Maranello team ahead of the second part of the 2024 Formula One Championship.